only about my knitting and spinning experiences, but I also talk about quilting and other hobbies that I have. It's been a long time since I have posted, so if you're here watching, thanks for coming back, or if you're new, basically the spiel before is what I focus on. I hope everybody is staying warm. Currently, I last year kind of moved from the Southwest to the Midwest, so right now we are experiencing negative degrees right now. It's a bit of a change, but actually not too bad since I'm mainly staying inside. One of the reasons I haven't updated in a bit just because during the growing season at work it's pretty busy. And I actually got a house, so that kind of took a lot of my attention. So I'm now in my house. It's one of those things where I found a house that I think was a good fit for me. I think I can kind of expand in, and it's got a decent sized yard, so I'm hoping to get into gardening for this coming year. So how I'm going to kind of go about this update and try and get everything out as fast as possible is I'll start off with my knitting updates for you guys, which usually involve our finished projects, works in progress, acquisitions, and possible new projects. And then after that, I'll probably go on to a little bit of quilting. I did finish a quilt for my relatives, so I'm kind of planning the next family quilt. So once I get there, if you're not interested in quilting, definitely leave. And if you stay that long, thanks for watching. And then at the very end, I might go into seeds a little bit. I did kind of go overboard and I bought quite a bit of seeds, and I'm hoping to start indoors and kind of transition out for this growing season. So we'll see how it goes. It'll kind of be my first time really attempting a garden. In the Southwest, it's very hard to grow a garden, especially with all the critters, and I'm not saying that there aren't critters here, but I think hopefully, especially with the weather and things like that, it'll be a little better. Just the fact that I see people growing things in the ground out here and they're actually surviving is kind of amazing to me. So I'm very excited to try that. So we are going to start off with my finished projects. For my finished projects, I have completed the bent sweater, which I was working on last time. Here it is. You probably saw some quick videos about the updates and stuff. Basically, this one is the bent sweater by Natasha Hornby. I chose the small size, which was about a 35.5-inch chest circumference. It is a little tighter, so I think it has negative ease, not positive ease. I did use the 4.5 millimeter needle and the 3.5 millimeter needle. So that's a 7 and a 4 US. The yarn that I used is a worsted weight spun yarn that I made or had sent to a mill. And it was from a fleece that I bought at the Estes Wool Festival. It was a Merino Colombian mix. I sent it to a mill and they spun it up as a 3-ply worsted weight, which is the brown that you can kind of see. But then if we get close, hopefully you can kind of see some slight greens and browns and things like that. That is a yarn by Big Little Yarn Company. It is her Surrey Silk Lace blend, and it's called Tanuki. And it's 75% baby alpaca and 25% silk. The cables have a nice definition, which I really like, and it's nice and soft and fuzzy. I did kind of adjust this pattern just slightly. In the pattern itself, you can either do like a cowled neck, or you can just do a short neck. I prefer short necks, but I did increase the length of this sweater by I think a couple inches, and it's still it still goes down past my jeans usually, but I kind of wanted it a little longer. I did not gauge swatch. I'm terrible when it comes to gauge swatching. I need to get better at that. And then for the sleeves itself, there is a part in the pattern where you actually decrease for the sleeves, and you can see it here, but then up to this part here, you actually don't have any more stockinette stitches. It kind of connects the two patterns, cable patterns together to make it more seamless. I was kind of worried that the sleeves were going to be a little too tight with the cable, so I decided to leave a couple of stockinette stitches here just to increase it a little bit. So then I had to kind of retrofit the cuff to make sure that the ribbing kind of matched up in a good way. So those are the main things that I changed about this. Other than that, it's absolutely soft and squishy, and I love it. And I'm just very happy that I was able to find a pattern that was really well written out, and I could use some mill spun yarn from these fleeces that I got. So that is kind of my first main finished project, but I absolutely love the cables. It is something where I still want to learn how to knit cables without a cable needle. I feel like it would just make the process so much faster, because I do love cables, I just don't like the tediousness of it all. And that's why the main body of this, I chose it because it's just pure stockinette stitches. Like, okay, if I'm gonna do cables, we're gonna just do it on the sleeves right now, just to, you know, get my toes into the water of putting cables into a large garment. So that is the first complete project. And then I went crazy for Socktober. So I got this sweater done a little bit before October, and then I kind of wanted to do projects for Socktober. So I did quite a few socks, and the first one that I did was, I was finishing up, like I started this before I started my sweater, and they kind of just sat kind of on the sideline as I worked on the sweater. But basically these are just some vanilla striped socks that I did. I usually use a size 0 2mm needle. I do the, what are they called? It's like the 3 needles that are flexible. I like using those a lot just because I have 2 needles that are holding the stitches, and I have the 1 needle for doing the work, which I feel is less kind of going around with versus like, you know, the actual stick needles, or the small, you know, 9-inch circulars, which for my hands are kind of big, so I just like those. I think they're the Haya needles. But basically, I finished these off. I am kind of lazy when it comes to striping, so I try and do a pattern where I can actually just loop my yarn down instead of having to cut it. So it's about like 3 rows per color. And this is made out of Barocco vintage sock. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes because I got a lot of notes. This is the Barocco vintage sock. You know, I like vintage by Barocco. I just find that with the sock yarn, it tended to split a little bit more than I would like. And so it was just sometimes a little tedious to deal with, because I don't like to split my sock yarn in general. But anyway, I casted on about 60 stitches for these. I did a 2x2 ribbed cuff, worked my way down. I did a basket weave, maybe focus, a basket weave fortifying stitch kind of a thing. So it's like kind of like a double knit. It's just better for wear. And then I did a Welsh heel turn, which is a little different from like a traditional heel turn. And then worked my way down to the toe, which I did anatomical toes, which means it kind of fits, you know, if you're a left or right foot, you'll have your big toe, and then it kind of slopes down for your smaller toes and stuff. So those are the things I finished. None of these are blocked, I'm sorry, but basically that's the finished one here. And then for the hill, I just like kind of interchanged the colors just to work them down all together so I wouldn't have to cut yarn again. So I finished that up fairly fast after the sweater, and then because I wanted to do as many socks during Socktober as possible, I was like, okay, I'll do DK weight yarns. You know, especially since I live in a colder area now, I'm like, DK weight yarns are just warmer and fuzzier and they knit up faster. And I realized at that point that I honestly didn't have a lot of DK weight yarn, like superwash yarn, in my stash. I got a lot of sport weight, a lot of fingering weight, but I didn't have a lot of DK weight. So what I did have though was something that was more recently acquired, which was another purchased from Big Little Yarn Company. And basically, I got her, it was her Superwash BFL Coriadel DK weight yarn. I don't know if she uses this base anymore, but it's a little bit more durable than our merino sock yarn, and it's also superwash, so even more so durable. And so the three colorways that I got were the Hanami, Lichen, and Takenoko, I think it's called. So basically, let me try and show some of it. I decided to kind of mix and matches of socks with these three full skeins of yarn that I had. So basically it's 50-50% for the Blue Face Leicestershire and the Coriadel. And then there's about 246 yards per 100 grams. And so the first set of socks that I did from this yarn, which this is the Hanami colorway, and this is the Takenoko colorway down here, the brown. So this was the first pair that I did. I did 2x2 rib. I believe I casted on 48 stitches on these, I think, with a size 3 millimeter, size 3 US needle. So that's a 3.25 millimeter needle. So 2x2 rib, knitted down. I, again, did a basket weave. It's kind of like the inverse of a partridge. I have partridge heel. And so you're putting like the yarn in the front when you are slipping stitches instead of in the back. Again, the Welsh heel turn, and then another anatomical toe. So that was the first pair that I did. And that's them together. A little close-up of Hanami. The second one that I did was with Takenoko and Lichen. So I started this off with the Judy's Magical Cast On. So it's like a folded cuff. Pretty reinforced, so it should stay up. I haven't actually worn these, honestly, because I went home for the holidays, and so they kind of just sat at my new house. Then I kind of did like a moss ribbed stitch on these guys, like that. Again, still casting on, I think the same amount of stitches, same needle. Welsh heel turn. This time around, yeah, I also did a reinforced basket weave at the bottom. And again, anatomical toes. So that was sock number 2 for the Lichen. A little longer than the first socks, honestly. And then, kind of using the scraps of what I had left of the 3 yarns, I then created some shorties. So we got Lichen. I think I had the least amount of yarn left, so I did another Judy's Magical Cast On for just a nice tight fitting cuff. Then I used the Hanami for the heel and the heel turn, and Takenoko for the body of the sock. I actually did a lace pattern here just for funsies because I only had to do 2 repeats, and then again anatomical toes. The lace pattern I think is number 1 in the Japanese, that's backwards, Japanese Knitting Stitch Bible. I think it was number 1 in there in case you guys are interested in that pattern. And kind of just like Frankenstein these together. So pretty much I used up all of Lichen, and then I had this much left of the brown and this much left of Hanami, I think. Haname, sorry. So I could even throw this into a cuff on a sock at some point, but I think it's a pretty good start for using up yarn. So those were kind of my Socktober socks. I think I got the first 2 done within Socktober or October, and then I kind of finished this guy off in November. So, because I was just kind of slow on the lace. So when that was done, then I created more socks. There's like almost 8 socks here. This, I just did some basic vanilla socks again because it is a striping sock. This one I did with, I believe, 60 stitch cast on, and again, size 0 2 mm needles. And this one has the Welsh heel turn again, basket weave, reinforced heel. And this one I didn't do an anatomical toe. I just did like a Kitchener stitch toe. So I went down to, I think, 16 stitches and did a Kitchener toe bind off on that. And this was made with Zauberball. Zauberball is no longer, I think they closed company-wise. So people are selling off their leftover stock. But basically, this was the Attraction colorway, which is 2473 for its number. It is 75% wool, 25% manufactured fiber, which is probably a polyamide or nylon mix. They marked it as DK. I would say it's more of like a heavy sport weight yarn. And there's 437 yards per 100-gram ball. You might find these at various yarn shops. I know if you're not opposed to shopping on Amazon, I believe they also have Zauberball on Amazon for leftover stock and stuff. Maybe even yarn.com or webs technically. So I did one of these. I was still working on this when I went home. I kind of went home for 2 weeks during Christmas to spend time with family. Once I got done with that, I then decided, it's time to make a pair of socks for my mom. I don't think I've ever made her a pair of socks. I made a pair of socks for my dad, but not my mom. She kind of likes Zauberball, but apparently they no longer had stock at one of the local yarn shops. And so what we went with next was the Ella Ray Color Magic. So this is the flannel colorway. I don't have the final socks with me because they're with my mom. I'm going to try and post a picture somewhere around here of her modeling those socks. But basically the reason why I have another ball is because I thought I was not going to make it with one ball. Like I was literally down to, this much, but I didn't know it at the time and I thought I was going to run out. And so I bought a second ball and now I have it because I was able to finish it. But basically this one is 75% superwash wool, 25% nylon. For her, I casted on 76 stitches, still used a size 0 needle. This is pretty much a 2x2 rib all the way down, Welsh heel, reinforced heel as heel flap, basket weave. And then for her, I did a Kitchener stitch toe, not an anatomical toe. I also had I was having her try on my socks and her feet are definitely wider. So it was really hard to get my socks onto her. So that's how I kind of gauged that she would probably need like a 76 stitch, which they fit, which was good. So yeah, those were kind of for her for Christmas. I was able to knock that out. And then that should be it for all the socks, amazingly enough. So I think now that I've kind of spieled about that, we'll go on to our Whips in Progress. Whips in Progress. All right, so Whips in Progress. I just have one whip going right now. That would be socks. This time though, I am actually trying a new technique and pattern. So I'm using Brenda's Basic Toe Up Socks by Brenda Vanlerberg, I think is her last name. Sorry if I mispronounced it. But it's one of those things where I want to start using more of the yarn in a skein to making socks, and I'm always kind of afraid I'm going to run out. So toe up socks is kind of a nice way of splitting your balls between 250-gram balls, and then kind of working with what you got, and you know that you're ending on the cuff, so you can kind of figure out how much you can use. So the yarn that I'm using for this is the Twisty Desert Dames. They're dyers in the Southwest, found it at a yarn store, and it's their pyrite fingering. It's about 84% superwash merino and then 16% of sparkling stellina gold. And there is 370 yards per 100 grams. It's more of I want to say it's kind of more like a sport weight, but like a light sport weight. Woo! I just lost the ball. But yeah, so it was kind of Christmassy colors. It was kind of fun, a little sparkly. And there's that colorway. So I do have one sock done, as you can see. I kept on knitting and knitting, and I was like, when am I gonna hit like 50 grams in this thing? And it was super long, and I still think I like left a few grams out just because I was like, okay, this is getting long. But basically, you start with the toe up. You do Judy's Magic Cast On, which luckily I already knew from trying Sock Madness at one point, trying and failing. But I had learned that cast on for the cuffs. So you actually use that for your toes. You work and you do increases. So like make one left, make one right, and then you increase up to the foot. You work it till about, I think 3 inches before, like 3 inches short of your full length of your foot. And then you do increases for the bottom of your heel. There's like a slight heel turn here. It's very small. And then basically after that, you kind of reduce your stitches while you're doing your heel flap. So this is also a basket weave. I switched basket weave into here, but I think she did like a slip stitch heel, reinforced slip stitch heel. Then this goes all the way up. It's a 3x1 ribbing all the way up until I hit the cuff, which I did a 1x1 ribbing, and I did a extra stretchy cast off just because these are a bit higher up and so thicker on the calves. Not blocked or anything, and you can see it kind of flares with that extra stretchy bind off, but at least when you're wearing the sock, it won't really show and it won't cut off your circulation up above. So working on that, I did the 64 stitch cast on in her pattern. It's a free pattern online with Ravelry. Really nice and easy to follow pretty much. So I highly suggest it, especially if you're trying to learn how to get into toe up socks. It was something that a friend had suggested because it was something I was interested in doing. She had a model and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. She's like, oh yeah, it's toe up socks. And I was like, what pattern did you use? I kind of need to get into this. And so yeah, I would suggest it. Working on the second sock currently and the main ribbing right now. Currently have, about this much left. So I still think I'll have maybe a tiny bit of scrap left, but definitely a lot less than traditionally what I have left over on socks. So very happy about that, being able to use as much as possible. So these are the needles I was talking about. So it's like the Haya Flexies, and they come in sets of 3, and they're nice and sharp and pointy, and I just need 3 of them for doing socks, which is kind of nice. So that's it for my widths. So we'll go on to acquisitions. All right. So acquisitions, you've already seen a couple of them because I've been using them in projects. So it was the El Array that you saw, flannel colorway, and then also the Twisty Desert Dames, that colorway. So, which I don't know if there was a name on it, so I apologize, but it's kind of Christmassy. So the other yarn acquisitions that I have, which amazingly enough have not been a huge amount that I can recollect, because I'm trying to use my stash, but you guys saw possibly my last haul of acquisitions from the last video, and it was quite a bit of, things from Big Little Yarn Company and, what is it, the Long Dog Yarns, hold on. Long Dog Yarns, yes. So the other acquisition that I'm starting off with is a colorway by Valkyrie Fibers. She is a indie dyer out in California. I think she's more up north, so she wasn't in the LA area. Luckily, that's not a good situation right now. But basically, this is one of her fun multi-colorways. Let me just zoom in there. And it's based off of an anime series called Jujutsu Kaisen. And she did a couple different colorways based on, like, I think episodes and characters. And so this one is called Left, Right, Good Night. But she had a lot of fun colorways. It was kind of hard to choose. It's made with her high twist BFL sock. And so it's 80% superwash BFL, 20% nylon. It's got 400 yards per 100 grams, and it is definitely like a fingering weight, but it's got these beautiful gold, and it's kind of hard to see, but there's black and dark blue kind of mixed in there. So this will be a striping sock. It'll be fun to do a toe-up sock with this for sure. That was the first thing that I got last year, since my last acquisition. Sorry if there's crinkling. And then I already showed you the Ella Ray, so I'll skip that. The next thing is the Lucky Feet hand-painted yarn by Circulo. It's just a lot of fun, vibrant, saturated pinks and dark greens. So this is colorway 8070. They don't have an actual name for it. And basically this one is a fingering weight. It has 75% superwash merino, 25% polyamide. There is 360 yards per 100 grams. And I would say like it is kind of like a sport weight, fingering weight. I think they categorize it as sport weight, and that's why there's a little less yardage on it. So I definitely want to do a toe-up sock with this. So, you know, I'm using up as much as possible. It's super soft and squishy. We'll see how it knits up, because looking at it, it looks like it's a little bit more loosely spun. So we'll see on that. And then I think the last two that I have were actually gifts from a friend. She is going to college in this kind of like south, like mid-south area. And she was at a local yarn store, and she kind of walked in. She says, "Hey, do you want anything?" And I was like, "No, don't feed this dash." But she got me something, and I told her, like, if you're going to get me something, get a colorway that you wouldn't mind wearing, because I'll probably make socks and send it back to you. So what she got me, she also made a really cute little personal bag for me. She also made a pot holder. Like, very crafty person. Absolutely adore all the things that she gives me, and I can't believe she like makes me handmade things, because that's kind of amazing. It's super nice. But she got me 2 skeins of yarn. She got La Bien Amie, which is a French brand, but I love the pinks and the golds and the gray. It was absolutely beautiful, and I'm like, but I was like, no, I'm gonna give it back to her. It's so pretty though. Basically it's called Vintage Grello, like gray and yellow. That's a colorway. It's 465 yards per 100 grams. And it's 75% superwash, 25% nylon. And it's done with their merino super sock base. But it's very pretty, and it's got lots of speckles, and I really like it. And then she also got me a yarn that was made in South Africa, which is kind of cool. I've never really experienced yarn being from South Africa. So this is Cowgirl Blues. And this is the colorway Peaches and Cream. And it's a mohair wool mixture. So 80% wool, 20% mohair. It is a 2-ply lace. And 50-gram bundle, about 380 meters. So I want to say maybe around 400 yards, guesstimate. So I think this might be fun to kind of like match up with like a skein of my mill spun wool that is also not super wash, because the mohair I think will help with the rigidity, and maybe make socks with that, and have like some slight, you know, striping going on in there. So that is the last of my acquisitions. And now we will go on to future projects. All right, for future projects, I'm definitely getting the itching for another sweater. And so I've kind of jumped onto the popular bandwagon, and I am going to do the Salty Days sweater by Veronica Lindbergh. Originally, I thought it was Salty Dog, so I was looking up Salty Dog on Ravelry, and it was just like, I don't think this is the right pattern. So yeah, I was wrong, and it's Salty Day sweater. It calls for a DK weight, and I think she combined a DK and a lace together, like a mohair possibly. It's gonna use a 2.5, which US, which is a 3mm needle, and a US 8, which is a 5mm needle. I think this time around I am gonna do a gauge swatch just to see where we come out, because I am planning to use some of the milled merino. This was the first fleece that I got. It's not the same one as the one that I did the event sweater with. This is a 100% merino. And I did get sport weight and DK weight spun yarn out of it. I think this is the sport weight, but I gotta double check. Because I got two different lengths of yardage per if it was DK versus sport weight. But as you can see, I've got quite a few hunks going on here. See, even more right here. I think this is the DK weight, which it's kind of more like a thick sport, maybe, or no. I think this is the DK. I think this is the sport. So I'll grab the DK, and then I'm gonna put it with, sorry, juggling a lot of things. Ooh. Here's it caked up, and then I was trying it out because originally I was trying to decide if I wanted to do it with one of my Princess Bride collection acquisitions from Long Dog Yarns. I decided to keep that for possibly an upcoming sweater project. So what I have here is also a Long Dog yarn dye. This is her Lord of the Rings colorway on mohair, which let me pull this out really quick. So this is her Surrey lace, sorry. So it is actually baby Surrey alpaca, 65% and 35% silk. So there's about 437 grams, and it's called the Lord of the Rings colorway. She did a Lord of the Rings collection, I think over a year ago. I still have some of her sock yarn that I need to make into socks. I keep missing the like perfect opportunity to be knitting Lord of the Rings themed colorway socks while I'm watching Lord of the Rings for my New Year binge. Like every year around New Year's, I always watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy just because I feel like it's very much like the New Year's, where the beginning of the year, it's like all happy and you're like, oh, new starts, rebirth. And then by the end of the year, you're like, ugh, just get rid of it. So like one of those things. So I was like, I keep on missing it. I just, so. But I am planning to put these two together just so it has a nice kind of bluish halo on it. Makes it a little bit more scrummy and soft. So I am going to do a swatch just to make sure we're lining up. But that's kind of the next project for sweater wise, because I've got this guy. I got two more of these skeins, which we should be good, because I think I had 3 skeins similar from Big Little Yarn Company for my last bin sweater. I don't think I even touched the 3rd skein. So there should be plenty enough there. But yep, I'll be putting these two together. I did do like a quick knit up with this and this yarn. And then also the Princess Bride one with this mohair, just to see how it looked. And I think for the salty days, I think this will just be like a nice seaside kind of sweater. So that is my next plan for knitting. Of course, I always might have socks going in the background, but this is my main big project. And then I'm still thinking about doing Chrysanthema shawl by, what is it? Ines Song. Sorry, I was like, what is this other one I wrote down? Yeah, so there's the shawl pattern. I'll pop it up here. And then another one that I'm looking into, which would use the Long Dog Anybody Got a Peanut colorway, which was that kind of nice caramely brown that I showed off last time. planning to do an actual cardigan with buttons and stuff, and I'm planning to use the South Shore by Kate Hopkins up yonder. That was the second one, the fourth one where I was like, what was that again? Sorry, brain fart. So those are my plans for my coming up knits, and I'm almost done with that sock, so I should be starting the sweater relatively soon. Sorry, that's my big notebook for notes. So that's pretty much it for, sorry, it's a little dangerous over here trying to balance all this stuff. That's it for my knitting update. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. I really appreciate any of your watches. This channel is definitely just a hobby of mine, but of course, if you like this content, feel free to like and subscribe. Something that is absolutely free that you can do to help support your local and favorite fiber artists out there. But now I'm gonna go on to a little bit of quilting. So if you want to stop watching here, thanks again, and we'll move on to the next thing. All right, for quilting, I'm just going to pop it up here really quick. It's not the best picture, but that's kind of what the finished product of the king size quilt I did for my uncle and aunt for Christmas. That's something that I just gifted them this holiday. So we did another drawing of the remainder pairs of relatives, and the next pair that I got, my aunt wanted I think a king size quilt again. That was kind of Southwest themed. I'm still trying to determine exactly which pattern I want to do, but I think it's called maybe Ring of Fire. It's something that the Missouri Star Quilt Company created. I think I can download it from online, download the pattern, pay but download it. But it mainly, I think you can use cake, layered cake packs for that. And so what I did was, of course, I went quilt shopping when I went back home, because there's a couple different quilt shops there. There's one quilt shop in my area. But of course, there's a lot of other neighboring towns that do have quite decent quilt shops. It's Midwest, very much. Quilting is very much something done up here. But locally at home, I did manage to find, which luckily enough, my aunt was like, yeah, it's a cute pattern, because I hadn't really consulted her yet when I bought it. But I found this really cute Dear Stella color layered cake grouping. And so it's got like little cacti and just like Southwest themey, like saguaros, sun. Let's see what else is in here. Leaves, which that kind of looks like eucalyptus, which I don't think is native to the Southwest. We've got just a lot of fun Southwest. Why am I spacing on the name? It's not, is it pictographs? Oh gosh. The stone etchings in the Southwest by the first people that were there originally. They've got some inspired in here, like, you know, just fun things. Some crazy rainbows. We do have nice rainbows when it does actually rain. And then there's some moon phases. Let me see what else. Horses. Night skies. I feel like there's also coyotes in here somewhere. Abstract coyotes. Yeah. So I need to get another one of these for the project. Some of the colors that I had go with it, I feel like a lot of my quilts have had blue in them. And it's just, you know, it's one of those things. Blue goes well, especially like the turquoise, southwesty sky blue. Like this is like very much New Mexico sky, I feel. So I'm planning to use this as the background for the quilt blocks. And then I also had, sorry, let me just actually do a closer up. Yeah. And then I found, I'll see if I can incorporate this somewhere, maybe for the border. But it kind of looks like saguaro needles. And so that was kind of fun, but they're kind of like slightly muted colors, but I think they'll go well with these Southwest colors here. So that is the plan. At some point I will start it. I had to ask my sister to grab a little bit more of the blue just because I was planning to use it for the background and I hadn't really looked at patterns at that point. So now that I kind of know what I need, she's gonna get me more of that, sorry. So that's kind of what I acquired for the next quilt. Of course, I bought some fabric for myself. Another thing that I got was kind of this fun abstract like feathers. I don't know what drew me to it so much, but I absolutely loved it. I mean, this is possibly a possibility to add into this quilt. I don't know, we'll see. But I just thought they were really fun, peachy, and cute. So I have some yardage of that. Another thing that I got was this wide backing, which I feel like wide backing, only certain places carry it, and I feel like they're very generic. Like, there's only a few places that really print stuff that has really, to me at least, fun, interesting patterns. And this quilt shop, which is more of a modern quilt shop where I got those layered cake pieces from, they have fun patterns. And this was a wide, like, quilt backing, and it's just so much fun, and there's like so much texture within the actual pattern itself. Like, I could not resist. So I bought a very decent quantity of this to do like a really nice like backing for a modern quilt or something that I'll eventually do. But it's going to the stash and I love it. And then what else did I get? Of course, I got some more things like this cute little modern plant colorway, pinks and golds, fun things, just like hanging plants. I like those. And another one that I got, which I know a lot of these are just random, but I just for some others just love the color combos. It's like a salmon with a dark blue. It's kind of modern and fun, abstract flowers. And so those are my quilting acquisitions. Eventually, hopefully, I'll start updating when I start cutting out for the quilt itself and get going there. But excited for that when I get around to it for sure. And I think that concludes the quilting part. So if you stayed around for the quilting, thank you. Now it's going on to I went crazy, and unfortunately I have them all piled together, so I don't really have like a neat way of going through them. And this was all purchased from one company. I'm not per se endorsing this company. I just find that their heirloom varieties are fun. That's a terrible way to go about it. Like, I'm open to hybrids. I'm not really concerned if they're organic or not. One of those things. But I just found that they had a lot of varieties that I thought were very fun, very cool. I'm very much into heirlooms just because I think it is important to have genetic diversity out there. In general, just because pests and diseases always evolve, and if you got something that kind of works already, it's always good to have in your arsenal. But yeah, so too many seeds, holy smokes. People are like, are you growing a farm? But I couldn't resist myself. It's one of those things, especially since I'm in an environment where hopefully I can actually grow something. But I basically got these from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. It's called rareseeds.com now. But basically I kind of went gung-ho crazy. I do plan to get a little setup for my basement for starting seeds early, just because I went from technically an 8A zone down to a 4A zone. Like, big swing, but that means shorter growing season, which means I need to start some of the stuff indoors. So without any order per se, I got tomatoes, so a purple rain tomato. I was trying to look at varieties that rated well on their website for taste. I feel like a lot of things are beautiful, but some of them didn't have the best taste factors from like customer reviews. So I was trying to find something that would taste good. Hopefully it'll grow well too. We'll see. I got Swiss chard, and not all of this I will be planting for the spring. Some of this I'm going to save for fall, but I did end up getting stuff early just in case they sold out later. I got a couple different types of peppers. So there is this pepper called Chiero Roca perfume. They're supposed to be small. I guess they're 15 times hotter than a jalapeno, so we'll see how that goes. I can withstand some heat since I'm from the Southwest, but I don't think I've had anything that hot. We'll see. Maybe I'll try and pickle them, and maybe that will help with the heat if I do get fruit out of this. But it just looked like fun, little small packs of heat bombs. Could even dry it down and use it as like a seasoning. But I think this one originated from Brazil. This one is not a hot pepper. It's more like just a regular pepper, but it does kind of look like something that would be hot. It is not. It's ají cachucha. Please, I'm terrible at pronouncing this, so I apologize. But yeah, it's also from like the Caribbean and Latin America cuisine. Another one of these, and it'll be interesting because like maybe I'll save seeds of things that have been pollinated and then plant them the next year and see exactly like what it morphs into, because I have a couple different pepper things going on possibly, and so if they cross pollinate it might create something fun and weird. Then I've got this third pepper, another small one. This one originates also in Brazil. It is a hot pepper, but I don't think it's super hot. It just has a hint of heat basically. So this is the one I was planning to do like pickled peppers with. But there's that one. I got squash, of course. I do like winter squash more predominantly than summer squash. I'll do a zucchini, but I do like something that stores and I can like make breads out of and soups out of. So this one I believe is a 90-day squash variety. It's a Chinese variety. It's the dark green Yushi Jiangbing Guao. Sorry. Kind of fun, bumpy, all that good stuff. What else? I got fennel, thyme, because I was like, maybe I should get at least one herb. I even bought flower seeds this year. I usually, in the past, I've never really tried to grow flowers. I think I grew columbines once, amazingly enough, in the desert, and they worked for some odd reason. But this time around, I do think I am going to try and add some flowers into my setup, just because of pollinators, variety, they might even help deter pests. We'll see. So I got aster, forget-me-nots. My grandma was, I think her favorite flower was technically sunflowers, but she always seemed to give us forget-me-not themed items from Alaska and up north. So it just reminds me of her, and I'm gonna plant some forget-me-nots. Then I also got yarrow, just a fun mixture of yarrow seeds, just to add a little bit more pop and color. I've got a white or creamish colored marigold, Kilimanjaro white. And technically, don't quote me on it, but I think it's an edible variety. I'm not going to eat that marigold, but because it's very, I don't know. Seems like a lot of not very good flavors. So do your research before you even attempt to eat any flowers. Like, make sure you know what you're eating or what you're sticking in your mouth, because flowers can be not good for you, deadly. So yeah, do your research. Zinnias was a free seed that they gave to me. I think every like 10 to 20 packets of seeds you get like a free seed. I bought Cosmos apricot lemonade. I got some winged beans. So apparently all aspects of this is supposed to be edible. So like you can eat the leaves, the flowers, the fruits, and I think even like the roots. Again, do your research. But that looked like a lot of fun to grow. It's a Japanese variety. That's something I'll be trying out. Later is a Japanese wasabi radish. So a little bit spicy, kind of similar to wasabi, but hopefully easier to grow, but it's a radish. Got cabbage as well. I got a couple beans. I did bush beans instead since I already had the winged beans. These are a French variety. They've been grown in France for like 150 years, so I wanted to try that guy out. Here's the zucchini squash. I believe this is a Polish variety, and it's called Nimba, but it looks like a kind of a nice little zucchini. Hopefully not too prolific. I don't plan to plant too many of those. Another Polish variety was this Monica cucumber, which was highly suggested for pickling. I also like eating pickling cucumbers like raw. So we'll see how this one goes. I think, don't quote me on it, like it's not supposed to get bitter if it gets a little bigger, but we'll see. Next is a free seed basil. So I got that one. I got onions, like it's a Japanese styled onion ishikura. So these ones are kind of like green onions, but they're slightly bigger. So it kind of looks like a leek, a very, very skinny leek when it's done. So that'll be some other time. I did get a watermelon. This one had a pretty high rating for flavor, sweetness, things like that. And it was bred in Michigan, so hopefully it's Midwest. It'll hopefully do well up in my region. We'll see. Of course, lettuce, because I have been eating more salads as a lettuce mix. Kale, this is the Russian red. Just a nice leafy kale. So that'll be good for soups and for freezing. I now have a full-size freezer down in my basement that came with the house, and so I'm like, oh my goodness, I can start storing so many more things down there. We'll see. Again, here is a dwarf bush bean. So we'll see how this one produces as well with the French one. This was free. This is a lettuce seed. It's Merlot. So that'll go with the lettuce. That's a head lettuce. This one is basil. It looks like lettuce, and it's literally called lettuce leaf, but this is basil. So definitely gonna plant that up. Have some nice tomato salads, hopefully, things like that. For the fall plantings, I did get a beet variety. They're kind of long. It's from Denmark. It's cylindra beets, technically. It's supposed to be very sweet and tender flesh. So that'll be for the fall. Edible flower, nasturtium. They have fun varieties for nasturtium. This one's Alaska red shades, and it's got like just variegated leaves and really beautiful flowers. So supposedly nasturtium has like very peppery flavor to the leaves. The flowers themselves are edible, and I think even like the seed pods, I think some people pickle them, kind of like a caper substitute. So I'm gonna try those edible flowers. I got a eggplant variety, which is a Thai purple ribbed. I got Mizuna, which is a red leaf mustard seed. Good for soups and things like that in the wintertime. Winter Choy, Chinese yellow heart. Really pretty, supposed to be very hardy when it comes to cold weather. So this will be a fall planting, and then when things start to frost up, hopefully it can hang out there for a little bit more and not be super tender. The second winter squash that I got was the Essex hybrid. This one takes about 100 days. So trying to find slightly shorter, because usually I've seen ones go up to 120 days for maturation. So I was trying to find something slightly shorter, especially since I have a shorter growing season. I'll probably start these indoors, possibly. We'll see. I'll be referring to our local ag extensions calendar for frost dates. But kind of fun, kind of warty, supposed to store well, I think. Really good for soups and breads, it says on the back. Tomato, I got an apricot zebra. Supposedly this has good flavor. It's a little smaller. The they're considered cherry tomatoes. I think they're slightly bigger than cherry tomatoes, but they're supposed to be good for salads and snacking. Wildly productive, supposedly, which is what I'm hoping for. So hopefully a couple of those will go into the garden along with the crim. And then I got something similar to a honeydew. I think it's more like a muskmelon. Well, technically, are muskmelons honeydew or a variety, or honeydew is a variety of muskmelon? Either way, this is a French variety. Okay, it is a honeydew type melon. Cool. Biol d'Or melon. I believe it's French. So we'll try this out. It's supposed to be very super sweet. So that's kind of what I like for honeydews. I got chamomile. So for herbal tea. So I'm hoping to harvest that for herbal teas. I think it's a Polish variety. I did get, I think, 2 varieties of poppy. So these poppies are actually ones that you can grow for bread, like poppy bread seed. So I'm kind of very excited about those. So once they kind of go to seed and they create their large rattles, then you can harvest them and use them in your poppy breads and like toppings and stuff like that. So I was like, yes, definitely. So very excited for those. And then the other 2 edible flowers, I did an Augustache mixture, Fragrant Delight mixture. So those are just going to be fun, hopefully attract lots of different pollinators, things like that. I believe you can use these in teas and stuff. Again, do your research before you take any of my word for granted. And then dandelion, which everybody's like, why are you doing dandelion? Because it's kind of a weed up here, but I think they're completely edible. Like all parts of the dandelion are edible. This one's not as prolific as the yellow dandelion out here. And then on top of it, you could do dandelion wine if you want to. But yeah, just a few of these just to add a little bit more color. Definitely attracts pollinators and stuff like that. So one of the other things. So yeah, that was my huge haul of like 100+ seeds. It's crazy, I know. But yeah, so once the ground starts to get more workable, I will be removing some grass area in my yards to create ground in plot areas and you know, plant stuff out. I'll probably be doing irrigation. I'll set up like a composting area. Probably going to put electric fence around the garden in my backyard area, just because we do have rabbits in this area, and the occasional deer, I think, wanders through this, even though we're still kind of within the city limits. That's something that we need to watch out for. So yeah, so those are big plans that I have for once it starts thawing out. But until then, it is negative something degrees here. I hope you guys are getting ready for the springtime. Let me know what you guys are working on. Do you guys plant gardens? Do you have any suggestions for like a Midwest gardener at this point? Because it is all French to me. Something very new. I'm getting library books on the gardening and all that good stuff. But I hope everybody's doing well. If you stayed around for that quick, just blazing update of everything I've kind of been doing since, what was it, July of last year. Thanks for watching, and if you like and subscribe to this, I will be extremely grateful and thankful. And as always, stay healthy out there and keep on knitting and having fun with your hobbies. All right, well, good seeing you guys.